Coffee with Claressa on MoneyFM 89.3.
Good afternoon and welcome. Now, SingSaver is regarded as Singapore's top personal finance comparison site with an abundance of information for all things related to credit card services, personal finance products and loans. MoneyFM 89.3 welcomes SingSaver's founder and country manager Rohith Murthy to talk about the site's latest development, the so-called war between e-wallets and credit cards, and how people will make payments in future. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Okay, so why don't you unpack it for us? Tell me a little bit more about SingSaver, because I have to admit I'm not that familiar with your site.
Well, it's never too late. So we are a personal finance comparison platform. Our mission is to empower people to lead healthy financial lives. So that's how we're trying to empower users here.
Okay, so what is the difference then between e-wallets and credit cards?
Well, that's a very sort of interesting question, because I think before I answer that question, it's very important to understand, the credit card business.
Right.
So the credit card business is that there are actually two businesses. The first business is card issuing. This is where they provide you a plastic. Sure. They give you credit. They manage your account. They process your payment.
For a very high fee.
Well, they charge you fees when you don't make the payments. Right. When you make your payments in full, they don't actually charge you.
They don't like those people.
Well, they like good spenders because there are lots of other products, they can actually offer you as they understand your spending behavior. The second business is actually merchant acquiring. This is when they enable merchants, retailers, to be able to accept payments and get reimbursed. Okay. So there are two businesses there. And when you talk about e-wallets, what is the war that we're talking about? The second business is actually merchant acquiring. This is when they enable merchants, retailers, to be able to accept payments and get reimbursed. Okay. So there are two businesses there. And when you talk about e-wallets, what is the war that we're talking about? Are e-wallets actually taking on the card issuing part of the business or the merchant acquiring part of the business? And that's when things get very interesting. Okay. For me, if you look at the entire payment industry, it's probably it's a miracle. I mean, think about it. A plastic that you have today has a Visa logo. You don't have a relationship with Visa. Right. When you travel around the world, the retailer doesn't have a relationship with someone like Visa or MasterCard. But you have that peace of mind that no matter where you go, chances are if it's a Visa or a MasterCard, your payment will be accepted. Right. So that global acceptance and predictability is something that's very underappreciated when you think about commerce.
We take it for granted now.
Exactly. So when we talk about the war between wallets and cards, for wallets to fully substitute, that global acceptance and predictability, that no matter where you go, here in Singapore or, travel around the world, with a wallet you'll be able to make the same payments and have the peace of mind where if something goes wrong, exactly who you need to call, what to check, you need to make, how much you need to pay back and so on. So what the e-wallets have done is obviously they've taken things like mobile, the entire mobile experience, and that's where, the value proposition comes in, where, you don't need to carry a plastic, you can, start making payments using a mobile phone, and they've attacked that whole layer and interface where you no longer need a plastic. But majority of the wallets here today need to be linked to a bank account or a credit card. Right. So, no matter which of the wallets you take, while they give you a very good mobile experience, you still need to actually bank account or a credit card. Right. So, no matter which of the wallets you take, while they give you a very good mobile experience, you still need to actually have a credit card to power the wallet or a bank account. So for me, when we talk about the war between wallets and credit cards, it's very important to understand that for wallets to fully displace the credit cards, they are actually taking on two businesses. And having said that, obviously the card providers, and they're not just sitting there and waiting to be disrupted. They've also started making a lot of moves, and I'll be happy to talk about it. But it's very important to set that context that wallet in itself doesn't mean anything. A credit card is actually a business that makes money. It makes money from the consumer. It makes money from the merchant.
Okay, as a consumer, I think the question then becomes, if I use an e-wallet, do I pay as many, interest payments and whatever charges and fees that a credit card has me pay?
Well, most of the wallets here don't, charge you any fees. Well, of course, the credit cards are also, one thing to keep in mind is the cards are also, they provide you a lot of rewards and incentives.
Sure.
Now, in fact, they provide you the richest rewards and incentives in a market like Singapore. And you have about 100 credit cards. These are the cards that allow you to earn miles. These are the cards that give you cash back when you spend. These are the cards that give you, very rich incentives when you sign up for the cards, and also give you discounts, 1-for-1 offers, and so on. So in that sense, obviously, when the cards business is such that they're actually lending you, it's still a lending business. So if you don't pay the full amount back, they charge you high interest.
Right.
Obviously, the highest interest is a credit card interest. If you withdraw cash from them, then, from a credit card, they charge you interest, they charge you an annual fee and so on. But they also provide you a lot of incentives, and that's where, they have so much of that customer stickiness, which e-wallets obviously are trying to attack it themselves, where they say, hey, if you use my wallet and pay across the merchants, you may get some sort of a discount, or, you may actually get some exclusive offers, or you will also earn loyalty points, and you can redeem them and shop around, in the rewards catalog. So they're also in that space.
Okay.
But the cards business is such that they are the ones who actually provide the richest offers today.
Okay, we are speaking to SingSaver's founder and country manager, Rohith Murthy, on many things, including the war between e-wallets and credit cards. Now, you're saying that credit cards are fighting back because they're not going to give up their position in the market. And
right.
E-wallets will want to take some of that position. So it should be an interesting win position for the consumer. Their position in the market. And
right.
E-wallets will want to take some of that position. So it should be an interesting win position for the consumer. Exactly.
So I think, how are they doing it? Now, first thing is they're getting pretty savvy when it comes to even applying for a card. Now, they're trying to make it ultra convenient for you to even apply for a credit card. A very recent example is StanChart. Right. So StanChart has this feature where when you apply for a credit card, you get an instant full approval and a virtual card immediately. So you don't actually have to wait 3 to 5 days to get your plastic and start, even transacting on it. Now, that's a great feature. The other thing that the credit cards do is they're also trying to understand the users better. When I started SingSaver 4 years back, the joke in the town was everybody in Singapore has a luggage. Because that's what you would get when you get a credit card.
Right.
But now the banks have actually truly started understanding what do you spend on, what's your demographic, and they've started making offers relevant. They've also started becoming smarter where they have strategic partnerships with a lot of the big retailers, a lot of the e-commerce players. And in fact, a lot of co-brand cards exist. A recent example, UOB has one with KrisFlyer, and they've launched a really good card where, you actually earn very good miles, which you can redeem for free tickets. And the other piece is not to forget the banks have their own wallets. DBS has, Payla.
Right.
And, very recently I took a taxi back from the airport. I paid using Payla. It was very seamless. I didn't have to take my credit card out.
Sure.
I didn't have to pay cash. In fact, when I take my kids for ice cream to my favorite ice cream parlor, I use Payla. So the banks have also started, they have also had their wallets. And that's also something that, banks are also focusing on. And as I mentioned earlier, as much as you have all these wallets, banks are still a primary source of fund. You have to power the wallet with money. You either link it to a bank account or you link it to a credit card. So that way the banks are still very relevant, and they're also making sure that they're disrupting that space of digital by making the experience a lot, seamless and a lot convenient.
Okay, so where does SingSaver come into all of this?
Well, we are a marketplace. Okay. So the 2-3 things that we do. One is transparency. We unpack all the terms and conditions. There are 100 credit cards in the market. So for someone like you, if you're thinking of, I want a credit card that gives me free tickets. I want to travel. What is a credit card that allows me to, do more of that?
Sure.
We provide you a very simplified view of the market, and we educate you through content so you know exactly how to use the products.
Right.
The other thing which we do is we work with all the providers in the market, and we are impartial. So we also are building capabilities so that when you decide to purchase a product, we make that experience as seamless as possible. And this is a variety of ways. We have APIs with a lot of the providers. What I mean by that is you don't even need to leave our platform. You can fill in some of that information. We talk to the bank and we give you a decision either on a credit card or a loan.
Okay.
So that way, you're getting a much, better experience. And of course, our job is also on rewards and incentives. So, we understand the consumers because we understand the entire market. So we also work very closely with the providers to make sure that they're designing products that you will use.
Right.
So we are also giving them
rewards.
those insights and rewards, so that you're not just getting an incentive that you won't use, and it's very relevant to your own lifestyle, your own sort of financial journey.
Okay. Now, which opens up a very interesting question. We are speaking to SingSaver's founder and country manager, Rohith Murthy, security.
Mm-hmm.
You said, I can go to you, I can fill up some of my information. Now, everyone is concerned at this stage about information. Anyone who's taking information from us, how secure is that information with you, with anyone, actually with e-wallets in general?
Transaction happen over wallet. 36% happen, for offline transaction over wallets. Alipay and VPay have already leapfrogged. So what will be interesting is which will be the next market, and I think in ASEAN, which will be the market that will recreate that model. I think in Singapore, it is still work in progress.
Right.
For online transactions, I think the, credit cards still are preferred here. They're still the top, preferred way of paying. And I think the wallets will grow. For offline transactions, interestingly, in Singapore, cash is still preferred. People still 40%, people still use cash. And this is, based on a global payments report that's come out from WorldPay. So, transactions, interestingly, in Singapore, cash is still preferred. People still 40%, people still use cash. And this is, based on a global payments report that's come out from WorldPay. So, it'll be interesting to see in outside Singapore, in markets, ASEAN markets, where credit cards are not, widely used, which of those markets will recreate the China model? Because I think this is not a market where we'll see China model being recreated. I still believe they will coexist, and I still believe it'll be a very healthy ecosystem where the consumer still wins. But it'll be interesting to see in some of these emerging markets, where China has already shown the way for a variety of reasons, either because they didn't even have the infrastructure, or the cultural, behavior towards using wallets was, ingrained in them. They were not against using it. Okay. I think that will be interesting to see which of the ASEAN markets will actually recreate it.
Okay, let's come back to Singapore. I'm actually intrigued by the fact that, did you say 40% still use cash?
Offline, cash is still, yes, preferred.
Cash is still king.
Yes.
Why is that? Is that because we have an aging society, or?
I think, again, variety of reasons. Some of it, obviously, it also depends on, if you go to a food court, do they actually accept, credit card or cash? Right. I think, you have to also look at where people spend. And of course, cash is still in this economy, in this society, cash is still considered king. In fact, when we look at even our credit card space last year, our most popular cards were still cashback cards, the ones that gave cash back instantly. So I think we're in a market where, people value cash, people value ang pao. So, that's something that, we will have to be mindful of.
Societal.
Yes, but the market is changing. The consumer here is also getting educated of what's the value proposition, why cashless is, better. I can't remember the last time I used cash. When I bought a ticket, when I took a taxi, or, even when I go dining, I haven't paid in cash in a long time. So I have already leapfrogged from cash to cash. So in fact, most of the time I realize, carrying cash for me is very cumbersome. And sometimes in certain markets, when you have to pay in cash, that really becomes a hassle. But I think majority of the market, will change. Of course, the younger people still prefer not, they will be the ones who will adopt to mobile wallets and so on. Sure. Which is why you see in markets where disruption has happened, the proportion of the entire population, if there are more young people, then yes, you will see also the disruption happening faster there.
All right. So what is next for you and SingSaver?
Well, we are going after everything that's, which is key to the consumers. That is true. But, we're going after all the things that matter. Things like simplicity, which I talked about. So we want to ensure that, when you're shopping for financial products, it's a simple process. Right. Transparency, which I touched upon. Rewards, which is something that we want to make sure that, our users here get the best products and the best offers. And the other piece would be making that whole experience ultra convenient. And we are still today the first and preferred partner to all the banks and providers when they want to build those capabilities when you that whole experience ultra convenient. And we are still today the first and preferred partner to all the banks and providers when they want to build those capabilities when you shop for a financial product, you can get that product sooner and you can get a better product on our platform than if you even went directly to the bank. So that's something that we are focusing on, and that's something that we are working very closely with each of the providers, not just in banking, but also in insurance.
Okay. You can say it, Rohith. It sounds like world domination is on mind.
Singapore, only Singapore.
Well, we wish you all the best with it. You obviously are off to a brilliant start. Thank you.
FM 89.3 pays tribute to iconic music, to iconic music, to iconic music, to iconic music.